2015, a new forum goes live. Kids are using the forum to organize the harassment of live streamers. It was created by a 14-year-old with short dark hair from his bedroom in Portugal. Fast forward 2 years, he's running the largest English-speaking hacking forum, facilitating the sale of millions of dollars in stolen information. At one point, he even scams an undercover FBI agent. Again, fast forward to 2022, he's arrested and the feds turned the website into a honeypot before officially shutting it down. Then the cycle begins again. This is the story of Diogo, how a teen troll turned into a cyber kingpin before it all came crashing down through a series of childish mistakes. The real question is, how did it go from raiding Twitch streamers to selling stolen information, hacking tools and databases? It all began back in 2006 when there was a series of the first raids against Twitch streamers. By 2014, Twitch had been acquired by Amazon for over $1 billion. There was an endless amount of people streaming and likewise raiding exploded. People were getting famous on YouTube by uploading their trolling. They were building armies of like-minded people and Diogo was friends with one of the biggest YouTubers in this new community. But this guy went through a ton of channels because YouTube kept banning him. And so at 14 years old, on January 1st, 2015, Diogo creates and publishes RaidForums.com. Quote, to provide a stable platform for Twitch streamers, as a dear friend of mine is a big figure with a massive YouTube following. He does all of this under the handle Omnipotent. His real identity isn't known yet. That username has really important implications, but we'll get back to it because for now his forum was becoming widely popular. With a dedicated place to coordinate, learn and share, all these attacks started to get posted. It started with chat spamming, but members quickly wanted to outdo each other, and in this push for sensationalism, things are moving towards a much darker direction. The forum is only a couple months old at this point, but we're already seeing these themes of cybercrime emerge. First, it was members creating and sharing malware to get victims to download. The programs would delete files, open shock websites and spam music. Then, some guy posted a guide on the 101s of raiding. It talks about doxing the streamer, to find their address, phone number, whatever to quote scare them into doing things like shoutouts or crazy stuff. It was a RaidForums member who swatted the famous streamer Ice Poseidon when he was getting on a plane in 2017 and then later continued swatting him and tried to extort him for $300 a month to stop it. It also mentions, quote, hacking the streamer to get their password. To do this, they would search Twitch usernames on breached databases and hope for a hit. It's quite funny to look at, because this is foreshadowing. Most people raiding at this time were kids. All they've been doing up to this point feels very childish, but by 2017, not only Diogo, but the entire forum was getting a little older. A little more sophisticated, realizing these raiding techniques could be applied to much broader attacks. And this is when we see a huge shift in the forum. So there's this other website called hackforums.net. The owner's name is Omniscient. Looks familiar, right? Kind of seems like Diogo was copying him with Omnipotent. Maybe he had an interest in hack forums, since at this point he kind of turns RaidForums into a clone, copies numerous forum sections about hacking, except he took it a step further. See, hack forums teeters on this fine legal line. Certain things aren't allowed there, and it's almost like Diogo read their disallowed black hat activity page and said, let's allow all of that. And so at this point, that sections for discussing things like remote administration tools, financial fraud, account cracking all go up. But what would become the most notorious was the leaks section. There were over 4,000 publicly disclosed breaches that exposed over 22 billion records in 2021 alone. Why? Usually money. Some hackers do it for idealism, but most often the data is either used to hack into accounts, commit financial fraud, run phishing attacks, or sometimes for ransomware gangs, leaking is just about making good on their threats. Hey, we've encrypted all your files, stole all your customers' information, pay up or we're not going to decrypt you. Plus, we're going to publicly post all of this sensitive information. On RaidForums, at first it was just people resharing old database leaks from long ago, already publicly reported, and members were using those to get into this type of online crime. But this wasn't really all that interesting. At least it wasn't drawing much attention. But then something interesting happened. Over the years, the hackers stealing the databases in the first place slowly started to join RaidForums and posted the leaks to the website, sometimes for free, sometimes for sale. Being a cybercrime forum, you couldn't really trust anyone, so Diogo opened up a middleman service using his perceived trust as the website's owner. He'd take payment from the buyer, take the data from the seller, and make sure it's not a scam. If everything looked good, everyone had agreed, he had released the sale. Buyer gets the data, seller gets the crypto. One of the crypto addresses we know he used for this middleman service received a total of 127 Bitcoin for the sale of stolen information. Accounting for Bitcoin's worth at the time of each of these transactions, that's $4.3 million. With original information now being posted on the forum, this is when security researchers and the FBI start paying attention. It had become ground zero for intelligence on the latest breaches. The FBI launched a full-scale investigation, and the biggest question of all is, who is omnipotent? One of the ways RaidForums was monetized was through a credit system. Nearly all the leaks on the website had to be unlocked for a few credits each. They could be earned by participating in the forum, but they also could be bought. And so it's not clear exactly when, but around 2017, US authorities took a look into the crypto wallets being used to accept these payments. They found a Bitcoin address, registered at Coinbase.com, and since the feds have legal access to nearly any database they want, they found Diogo had registered the account under his real name and the address of his home in Portugal, and even provided a picture of his ID. But knowing who he wasn't enough. He wouldn't be arrested for 5 more years. They had to build a strong case if they were going to get him extradited. Sometimes people make a joke. Oh, if I say such and such online, I'm going to get put on a list. Well, Diogo actually got put on that list. In June of 2018, he flies to the US on reportedly a little vacation, but after a 15-hour flight, he was greeted by law enforcement with a search warrant. He's 18 at this point, told him he worked in coding, owned his own website. To take matters worse, he brought his laptop and phone, which of course the FBI seized. And they find numerous emails from the mail system at RaidForums, a Discord account under the alias Omnipotent, and the email address unraveled@pm.me. This guy brought the laptop that he was doing all his illegal activity on, and nothing was encrypted. It was essentially an open book. This isn't normal, by the way. When they apprehended the creator of Silk Road, a darknet marketplace, they orchestrated an elaborate ruse to get him with his laptop still on, for fear it was encrypted with a tool like VeriCrypt. Diogo had no such precautions, which allowed the FBI to search it so easily. He wasn't very sophisticated, and this theme will continue. Regardless, this didn't matter, because he was again let go, and maybe the takeaway for Diogo was that he was invincible. Just over a month had passed since his running with the FBI, and he was already contacting them in an attempt to retrieve his seized items, and he was doing this from his dirty email address. The exact same one he's running all of his RaidForum stuff from. He admitted to them that his alias is indeed omnipotent, again confirmed his address, and even provided them a picture of his ID, which they then matched with the one they had pulled from his Coinbase account. Diogo just straight up told on himself, which is wild because besides running one of the largest cybercrime forums, he also had a little side hustle for selling stolen credit card details. The thing that Diogo didn't realize at this point is that they were building a strong case against him. Not even 6 months after his first run with the FBI, a threat goes up, selling the details of 2.3 million stolen credit cards for $25,000. The seller is operating under the handle downloading. Except the FBI already knows that it's Diogo, because when searching his Discord, they found messages of him admitting that that's his secret account. And so the feds register an account on RaidForums, and they attempt to buy these from him, negotiating the price down for $4,000 for 1.1 million credit cards. But there's a problem. After the payment is sent, instead of sending the records, Diogo blocks them. Although he probably didn't realize this was an undercover agent, he probably just saw that it was a new account and figured he'd be able to get away with it. So they sent him an email under their now blocked fake alias and essentially blackmail him. Out of all the things, this is the one time that Diogo was smart enough to not play into it. But it didn't really matter much, because before the sale took place, he had already sent them 3 credit cards to prove that the data was legit. And the feds not only confirmed this with the credit card company, but they went and found the owners of the credit cards and got testaments from them, that they've never gave anyone permission to use or sell their information. He's 19, going on 20 at this point, and it's a downhill from here. Over the next 2 years, the FBI went on to buy more data from Diogo in various capacities numerous times, and feeling good about their chances of a conviction, a warrant for his arrest was issued on May 6, 2021. But for 8 months, nothing happened. The Portuguese police must have not been all that cooperative. However, Diogo got an aging mom and she lives in the United Kingdom. And in late January 2022, knowing that he's facing prosecution by the United States, he flew there to see her because she had fallen ill, and it was at this point, now on UK soil, that he was taken into custody. Meanwhile, the members of RaidForums are starting to wonder where the heck he is. Nobody had heard from him in over a month, when suddenly everybody got logged out of the website, and upon trying to log in, they would get an error message. Something was up, and this was quickly confirmed by one of the admins. He posted in the official Telegram channel saying that the domain has been seized, but at this point it wasn't clear who actually took it over. At first, people were speculating that it was Russia, but security researchers quickly noticed that the name servers have been updated to the ones previously known to be used by US law enforcement, and they were exactly right. The feds had taken control and set up a phishing page to harvest the credentials and IP addresses of those attempting to log in, likely to farm data to use in other investigations. And so, after being 7 years online and reaching over 500,000 registered members, this marked the end of RaidForums. But it took only 2 weeks for prolific member Pom Purin to recreate the website. The website's community has been transferred into the hands of someone who is seemingly much more sophisticated, not just a 14-year-old kid that fell into the role of a cyber kingpin, right? And so, the question is, what has been achieved from all of this? Diogo, 22, now is facing decades in a US prison. But interestingly, while he facilitated the sale of millions of dollars in stolen data, they were only able to prove that he personally profited $250,000. Keep in mind that RaidForums was up for 7 years. That works out to about $30,000 a year. Not bad for Portugal, but awful given for the context of his site.